to come through. Just waiting on conflict. Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, we are now live. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Bayside Local Planning Panel meeting of the 26th of April 2022. We've got a number of people presenting on this one item that we have as a part of our public meeting today. So I'd ask you all to be respectful in your presentations and keep your presentations to 3 minutes if you can. Can I advise everyone that the Bayside Council respects the traditional custodians of this land, elders past and present, and on which this meeting is taking place, and acknowledges the Gadigal and Bidjigal clans of the Sydney Basin. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you to the panel. As chair, I'll start by saying my name's Gary Shields. I'm a planner, urban designer and traffic engineer. Has worked as a consultant and worked with a number of local councils and a period of time as an acting commissioner in the court. Can I ask Helen to introduce herself as another panellist?
Good evening. My name's Helen Deegan. I'm a town planner with some 30 years of experience in private practice as well as in state government. I'm a fellow with the New South Wales Planning Institute, and I sit on a number of other planning panels. Thanks.
Mr. Reid, thank you.
My name's Anthony Reid. I'm a chartered professional engineer. I have over 35 years experience as a general manager or director of engineering in local government. I'm also a member of the management committee of the New South Wales Roads and Transport Directorate, and I'm currently working as a consultant.
Thanks, Mr. Reid. And Anna, can you introduce yourself as a community rep? Thank you. Anna, I think you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Good evening, everyone. My name is Anna Corpus, and I'm a resident of Bexley for about almost 15 years now. I have over 30 years of experience in policy work, in natural resources, sustainability, and environmental projects. I've got postgrad degrees in groundwater management and hydrogeology, and also in policy. I'm currently Senior Policy Officer with the Department of Planning and Environment, and it's just my second year as a member of the, actually my first year as a member of the Bayside Local Planning panel.
Thank you, Anna. Ladies and gentlemen, site inspections have been a tad restricted because of COVID, so the committee undertakes, or the panel undertakes, their inspections separately rather than going around en masse, as was the case pre-COVID. But panellists have familiarised themselves as best they can with the site, indeed read all of the material and all of the documentation that's before us today. We're dealing with one matter, 11 Highworth Avenue, Bexley. We have 3 speakers speaking against the proposal. We have 6 speakers speaking in favour of the proposal. Whether we need to hear from those 6 speakers, I'll be guided by those individual parties. I'm assuming that there would be a degree of overlap between each, but we'll see how that unfolds. I do propose to hear from the 3 speakers speaking against in the first instance, and the first person I have is a Mr. George Candelas, if I've got that correctly, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Gary. Yeah, George Candelas is my name.
Would you like to address the panel, please, for 3 minutes?
Yeah, sure. So I'm speaking on behalf of my mother, Angela Vangelia Candelas, who resides at 7 Highworth Avenue, Bexley. I have been, and she's obviously still there, been a resident of that house for 50 years, since 1972. Obviously, our major concerns with this development is the traffic it will create in the vicinity of the development. The traffic reports carried out by Varga were carried out during the COVID pandemic period, where most people were in lockdown. I don't believe this is a true and accurate reflection of traffic under any normal circumstances. Major concern we have here is safety of the public domain, safety of the residents adjacent and around the proposed development. I've personally seen many accidents in front of that development and in front of my mother's residence. My brother was almost killed 3 or 4 years ago with a car that sped out of McDonald's there on the corner, which is a very busy McDonald's, which causes a lot of problems for the street and its residents there with regards to traffic, speeding. So the concern is certainly centred around safety, traffic congestion. I don't understand how a 76 children childcare centre will be able to facilitate safety drop-offs and pickups from parents, caretakers, grandparents and the like. Being a parent as well, knowing what it's like having to drop off children at childcare facilities, particularly in this proposed development at Highworth Avenue, which is literally 4 houses down from a very busy McDonald's, a main arterial road in Forest Road. And again, I just can't see how the traffic report can identify traffic movements so specifically to 20 movements in the morning between 8:30 and 9:30 or whatnot. So anyway, just to be brief, because I know I'm conscious of time here, safety, traffic congestion, people, my mother crossing the road to visit friends, that's a safety issue for us as well. It's very difficult parking in and out of her driveway, along with all the other cars that park on the road. And they're well within their rights to park on the road, but just to see how this development is going to affect the traffic movements there is of major concern. Privacy issues overlooking into backyards, particularly into number 7 and 9 Highworth Avenue. There will definitely be issues with privacy and noise issues. I find it, I guess, quite odd that they're obviously digging for a basement of 3 meters. I'm assuming in height. I mean, I work in the construction industry myself. I'm concerned around subsoil drainage and what proposed stormwater flow and egress is, but how that's going to be managed. Is the basement fully tanked as per New South Wales water requirements? Again, I touch on traffic management systems. Should this proposal be approved, I just question how the construction will be taking place for that childcare facility during construction, with proper traffic management, being a main arterial road too for ambulance and essential care services from Forest Road to Stony Creek Road, servicing ambulances and special care vehicular transport for those residents down the road. Concerns around craneage requirements over existing power lines. Look, it's all detailed in my objection to this proposed development. The general feel and concerns around the broader community of Highworth Avenue, the residents that have lived in the area for over 50 years, who have sound knowledge of the area, are very, very concerned for their safety and their well-being. And God forbid, a child is hit by a car, by traffic and whatnot. So again, it's all in my reports that I've sent to council on 2 occasions.
Thank you, Mr. Candelas. Could I ask Mr. Ulysses Fallis, please, to present to the
Thank you, Gary Shields. I'll sort of reiterate some words of George Candelas's concern, being my next door neighbour as well. The Viagra traffic planning report of major safety concerns, as this report modelling does not represent a true and accurate modelling, as this report was done last year in heavy lockdown period due to COVID restrictions, with the majority of vehicular movement, along with drivers, people that remained at home and working from home within their designated geographic areas. This report will reflect a totally different picture when all factoring is given to the peak of 61 parent vehicles all arriving at once simultaneously, and compounded with McDonald's restaurant traffic flow, and adding the fact of Raimonda's waste collection blocking Highworth Avenue of traffic flow altogether in collection of waste whilst at this new development site. And given our neighbours' concerns of limited parking due to additional family members owning a number of cars per family for outside street parking, as well as visitor parkings with traffic flow conditions during these peak times, with the main flow of traffic from Queen Street and Highworth Avenue feeding onto the in and out traffic flow of vehicles onto both Forest Road and Stony Creek Road, with a speed limit of 50 kilometres, along with emergency vehicles utilisation. Bayside City Council needs to reconsider and review this aspect in more detail as to investigate this matter of safety concerns. I am not an expert on traffic flow, and whilst comprehending the report to hand, common sense should prevail here, and being in the physical locality of residents, awareness of 24/7 for over 26 years in living and breathing and experiencing the activity of traffic flow, along with parking issues that has previously been compounded by McDonald's restaurant traffic flow and Hooning business firsthand, to reflect a new report for a pre-situation will represent a totally different picture to consider as a reality check compared to a theorised report modelling to deal with altogether. Just imagine when the added 61 children, 61 parents, 14 staff and deliveries with vehicular traffic flow is added as a result of the childcare facility to this equation, to these quantity of vehicles in total. This will further compound and increase traffic flow congestion and one of a mayhem dilemma, given the narrow width of the road in question with pre-COVID conditions factored. From a layman's perspective, given that only 4 parent vehicles are catered for by the new proposal out of 61, that common sense should prevail here, especially with the added and speeding of emergency vehicles coming into the equation to this thoroughfare with pre-COVID consideration, given this thoroughfare that it simply cannot cope with this mayhem. I believe whilst having some 61 parent drivers or even existing residents and visitors are exiting and entering their vehicles, doors and exiting when parked parallel to the curbside, and if a second baby child needs to be exited from the driver's passenger side door, in addition to possibly another child, and given a scenario of two-way directional of traffic flow and parked vehicles either side of the road.
Sir, can you wind up there? You've exceeded your 3 minutes.
So, sorry, I didn't realise I'll go into that. Originally, we were told 5 minutes, and then it curved down 3 minutes after the thing. But I'll try to be as quickly. Just got a couple more points, and motorbikes, push bikes.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Nothing. Just keep going, sir.
Okay. Either speeding of some vehicles or merging vehicles with traffic flow peak or non-peak times, given the narrow width of the road in question. What will be the probability here of an incident occurrence, and what if a fatality occurs? Where's the logic and safety considerations factored into this equation here? We have previously witnessed some incident occurrence over the years, as George Condilis outlined. Point 2, major concerns of overshadowing and privacy issues to my residents, causing escalation in rising dampness and mould issues, being in over 80% restricted in sunlight during winter and summer, will result to the northern wall of my residents due to the soil within this area being one of a high-density clay, silty type material that retains moisture. Without sufficient sunlight to drive the water moisture content within the clay silty soil, as my residential house at number 9 is built on sandstone blocks, foundations of Federation type, being next door to this DA4 childcare.
Can you wind up there, please?
Well, I've got another 2 points, which should maybe just take 2 minutes, because I think I've got to make these
Sorry,
points.
sir. I'm
No.
sorry. You can't have 2 minutes. Could you wind up there, please?
I'll try to quickly. All right. The noise environment, it appears that they've taken the cheapest and noisiest options that will create excessive noise due to the use of hydraulic impact hammers, rather than use saw cutting, which will minimise the noise and vibrations to my residents. And my son's studying university, and that noise is going to be excessive. And I'll just go to point 4, concerns over the excavation and retaining walls that should be structured to Australian standards and to engineer requirements need to be properly adhered to and maintained by regular supervision of boundary walls, and that no shortcuts are taken.
Thank you.
As per previous concerns raised, I object the development that is and does not in any way reflect the street setting or landscape in any way, shape or form, and will be bad planning and destroy the amenities of this area. Currently, this development site hasn't been maintained in appearance,
for the rest
and
of the...
there's grass overgrowing.
Thank you.
Sorry?
Thank you.
Okay.
I have the next speaker, please. Mr. Briscoe Hugh.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm just dialing Mr. Briscoe Huff now.
Huff, thank you. Just while we're waiting, can I assume that the other speakers in speaking in favour are online?
Okay, I'm on the phone now and I can hear everybody there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Briscoe. Can you be a little bit more considerate than the previous speaker? And
I will try my best, sir. Just give me the warning and I'll be off the phone.
You're a
now,
gentleman.
Mr. Shields and fellow committee, I haven't got nothing written down in front of me. I'm just going to go off the cuff. I've been a resident here for 40 odd years. My family, as in my grandmother, was here for the 40 years previous to that, so I'm in her place. Look, the whole situation is ridiculous. To have a 76 children childcare centre up the road is just over the top. We had one that was proposed across the road. It got knocked on the head. Reasons being, I assume, traffic, etc. Yesterday, I witnessed a police officer doing what I would estimate about 140 kilometres, lights blaring, sirens going, and I thought if I had a camera, I should have taken a photo of it. This is the sort of danger I'm more worried about. Someone is going to drive out of this underground driveway, come up blind, and I've had a car written off. My neighbour's had a car written off. This is just general traffic going up the road. It is a dangerous street. It is known as Highworth Avenue. We call it highway to hell. It is definitely not an avenue. You have emergency services. I believe the police weren't terribly happy about this proposal. I don't know if you've heard from the Fireys or the Ambos, because they are constantly battling between Forest Road down to Stony Creek, where they will join and get onto the M5 if there's a major incident. Now, I can only plead. We have 20-odd childcare / after-school centres within about a kilometre of me. I've got one just in Don Street around the corner, which has apparently been given the go-ahead, although nobody seems to have done anything about the building. We, in this street, are probably averaging an age of about 60. We have no children that will even see the light of day of using this place, let alone grandchildren or whatever. According to your road reports, you know, most people are going to walk their children there. Nobody walks their children anywhere. At 3:30 most afternoons, I have probably at least 200 metres down from the corner of Forest Road and Highworth Avenue, and I have cars backed up beyond my place lining up to go into McDonald's. It's bloody horrendous. Nothing mentioned about that in the report. Now, I'm afraid to say if this goes ahead, there is going to be a really, really serious accident. And I'm afraid to say it'll be on council's head, because it's going to happen. Not maybe, it will. We have that many incidents, that many mirrors. I cannot park my truck out the front. It's only a small Pantech truck. It has to be in my driveway. Unfortunately, my wife's car can't fit in front of the truck, so it cops getting its mirrors ripped off as well as getting written off. So we're onto the second car now. I can probably sit back and talk about a lot more things, but the thing is, at the end of the day, it is not the right street to have a facility like this. It's extremely dangerous. There's going to be some serious accidents. None of the neighbours are happy with it. Nobody I can talk to from across the street. And another thing I'm a little bit upset about, a lot of my neighbours are away at the moment. Just the fact we've had school holidays / long weekend. Why this meeting was convened so quickly, I'd rather have had it when everybody was back at home and not away. And I'd certainly like to have these meetings in person. I think it's a much easier way to present people's problems. You can talk to everybody and everybody can see you. But you've really got to have a look at it. Do we need a 21 childcare centres within about a kilometre of this house? It's just overburdening the whole area. You've heard from George and our friend just then. It's a real concern for all neighbours. We delve every day with the traffic. We delve every day with the planes. I don't need cars coming in, parking across my driveway and my neighbours. And this is what I fear. They're not going to use a driveway. They're just going to pull up, jump the kids, and off they go. And to me, that's going to be extremely dangerous. As yesterday, going out to my car, I nearly got run over by one of these little electric scooters doing about 35 kilometres an hour down the footpath. This is happening every day.
Could you wind up there, please? Thank you.
Well, look, folks, I will wind up. I wish you folks all the best in the world, but please consider the danger.
Thank you for your submission. And yes, I look forward to going back to face-to-face meetings as well. It'd be a lot more personal than the.
I think so.
It has allowed us to continue. Can I hear, please, from Ms. Daniela Asif? Could you please present to the panel?
I don't need to present anything. I'm the applicant, but I would
You're
like.
listed as the presenter. You're here to answer questions, are you?
Yes, I'm here to answer some questions, but I can answer something about the demand if you'd like me to explain that.
You can explain whatever you like, or you can wait until a question's been asked of you. It's a matter for you. Okay,
I'll wait till a question's been asked.
You'll be the operator of the centre, will you?
Yes.
Thank you. Next person I've got on the list is the traffic engineer, and traffic engineers are always in the firing line with these sorts of uses, and it's Mr. Palmer. Would you like to address Mr. Palmer?
Mr. Shields, good to see you.
Good to be seen. Thank you.
Panel members, submitters. I just much like Daniela, I don't have much to add. I'm happy to answer any questions. Other than to say our traffic study was done in accordance with all the relevant requirements. Parking complies with Council's DCP. The traffic analysis undertook peak surveys this February. So once school had gone back and traffic conditions were of relative normality, that study was then presented to Council, passed on to Council, and then on to Transport for New South Wales, who both reviewed it and provided no further comment.
Okay. The panel may have some questions of you shortly, Mr. Palmer, but thank you for your brevity.
That's fine. Thank you.
Mr. Sato, welcome.
Thank you. Look, I'm really here to answer questions, but I wanted to just make an introductory comment, then I'll just see, because the experts can answer the specific issues. Montessori have got something like 35 centres, very experienced at it. The consultant team you see before you have, each of them probably dealt with dozens, and at least a dozen, probably more childcare centres. So they're well skilled at all the details, the acoustics, all those sorts of issues. I understand the concern people have. Daniela can answer the demand issue because Montessori do not invest in these things unless they're pretty sure that there's a reasonable demand. I also note that this site is 2 lots, so it's twice the size of the normal lots in the area, and the setbacks are more than would be required. Indeed, the impacts are less than a typical 2-storey house if it were built there. So what I'm trying to say is, yes, there is always concerns about these things. The other final point is this centre operates 7 to 6 p.m. Monday to Friday. In other words, evenings there is no activity unless there's one or, there might be half a dozen parent staff meetings during the year that might go a little bit longer, but basically does not operate after hours and does not operate weekends. So whilst people have concerns, the impacts are really limited at daytime, and the parking's underground on-site and conforms all the codes. Their introductory comments. Jeff Mead here is the planner who will take you further if you've got other questions, but I just want to contextualise it as people are always concerned about these things.
Thank you, Mr. Sato. Mr. Mead, take your mute off. Thank you.
Thanks,
And
Dr.
welcome.
Shields. Thank you. I won't make any detailed presentations either. We've read the staff assessment report and agree with the assessment contained within it, but more importantly, accept all the draft conditions, including the deferred commencement condition, which relates to the groundwater question. The assessment report deals with what's ultimately an amended set of plans that was amended in response to council staff's comments along the way. As Mr. Palmer indicated before, there was updated traffic analysis undertaken during the process, and changes made in response to concerns about acoustics and things like that. The plan of management that you see attached to your papers is very detailed. In fact, Montessori prepared plans of management that far exceed anything I've seen from other operators, and are very well established as operators. So it's not a childcare centre as a development proposition that is then going to be on-sold to somebody else, like many of the DAs you see for these types of uses. This is a use that's going to be operated by Montessori in accordance with that very detailed plan of management. So whilst I understand the reservations of surrounding neighbours and so on for this type of use, it's our view that the plan of management will ensure that that the operator is a good neighbour. So I don't have a great deal else to add unless there's any specific questions.
The site area was referred to as being a double lot. Do you have that site area handy, Mr. Mead?
About 1,075 square metres altogether.
Thank you. Mr. Bloomfield.
Hi,
The
everyone.
architect.
The architect.
Hi. Yeah, I'm the architect. So again, just happy to answer any questions anyone has. But
I'm going to ask the panel shortly if they have any questions of anyone after we just get through the list, and we've got the other person who's normally in the hot seat, the acoustic engineer, Mr. Stephen Cooper. Are you here, Mr. Cooper?
Yes, Mr.
He's there.
Mr.
Good evening.
Cooper, you want to say anything to the panel this evening?
I'm here to answer questions, but one matter that did raise, our ambient measurements were conducted in April and may have been affected by a reduced traffic and therefore reduce the ambient levels. So therefore the assessment has been based on those lower levels as a conservative issue. With the traffic returning to normal, as in a post-COVID situation, the ambient background levels do increase. We've made no allowance for that, so therefore we have a conservative assessment for this childcare centre.
Thank you. Does the panel have any questions of the applicant's representatives? Mr. Reid, do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Helen,
About the Anna.
sorry, Anna, I was just going to Helen. I won't miss you out. Helen?
Yeah, I do have a couple of just quick questions,
Thank you.
more out of interest. Probably to Chris, in terms of traffic, I just wondered at a broader level, obviously we heard a lot about the dynamic of traffic within this locality, so it's not just this street per se. Are you aware of any sort of more local or regional traffic management mechanisms that are being looked at for this broader locality of, and how traffic is intended to move and flow through? Because I imagine Highworth Street's not intended to be a major arterial or any of that. It's playing a bit of a rat run maybe for some people, but I wondered whether you were aware of any other higher level strategic sort of traffic implications or calming mechanisms and devices.
Not that I'm aware of, Helen, no.
Okay.
Neither through council or Transport for New South Wales, not that I'm aware of.
Okay, only because obviously that, the issue of traffic, and maybe this is back to the various submitters, is, the issues you raise are very valid by way of traffic over and above, what's being proposed here now, and maybe these are issues that should be dealt with for council and state government if this is occurring in your area. Just a general statement. Other question is to Daniel, and in terms of just the side elevations, and I'm afraid the plans I was viewing was very hard for me to read. I just wanted to check, when I look at the side elevations of the property and any windows, have they actually been frosted or oblique or anything to reduce the ability for people? I know in most cases they're high level, and yeah. I appreciate the screening that's being put around the outside from a noise point of view is all quite high. I just wanted to get a little bit of feedback on the treatment of windows on the sides of the building.
So the side-facing windows, if they're down to floor level, are frosted up to 1.7 metres.
Mm-hmm.
So that mitigates any overlooking from those rooms. They're also set back quite a long way from the side boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just get the plan open in front of me. So the north boundary has a planter. The north-facing windows have a planter surrounding them, so they're further set back. So you're not going to have a direct line of sight into the side facing windows of 13 Highworth Avenue.
Yep.
And on the southern side, there's really only one small side-facing window towards the front of the classroom, which is, I haven't dimensioned the setback, but it's probably about 5 metres setback from the boundary.
Yep.
And again, would be frosted up to 1.7 metres. Apart from that, the areas to the outdoor play don't have any overlooking to the side boundaries.
Okay. Thank you. And then my last question is actually probably to Daniela in terms of the operation, and just I imagine from your experience in other operations, the drop off and pick up in this location is intended to be mainly in the basement, and how often do people come? Maybe just explain that process to us if you can.
The peak pickup drop off time is between, I think, 8:30 to 9:30, and then the peak pickup time is between 4:30 to 5:30. So we'll get mainly cars going in those times, and then after or before that, it'd be probably about 5% of the children.
And the intention is that they would generally go into the building, into the basement to do the drop off and pick up, yes. Not the street.
Yeah, not the street.
Thank you. That's it for me, Gary. Thank you.
Thank you. Anna, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off before. Anna? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, okay. Supplementary to the traffic questions raised by Helen, I was wondering whether the traffic engineers within council have received many complaints about rat running along this street historically. Anyone from council traffic team who can respond?
Sorry, you're asking the question of Mr. Palmer or of the council's traffic engineer?
No, council, because the submissions are claiming that this street is being used by a lot of cars, and they're endangering lives, they're endangering the safety of pedestrians, etc.
Yeah. So
has council received complaints and reports on this traffic
Yeah, have you finished asking? Because, okay. So this is Ben Latter from Development Services. I'm the coordinator. Now, this application did go to the local traffic committee. Issues such as those would have been raised, yet they were not raised by the local traffic committee. I am not a traffic engineer, and neither is Angela Lazaridis, the planner who assessed the DA, so we can't comment as to our local knowledge or anecdotal evidence of that, but we can only comment on the traffic committee and the development engineer. Now that is in the report.
Anything else, Anna?
I'm not hearing everything. It's a really patchy.
You're freezing, I'm afraid.
The second question is for the operator. Now so I didn't really hear any complete response for that first question.
The response.
I'll take off my camera.
The response was that the local traffic committee didn't identify any issues.
Okay. All right. Because if there was a real issue on that street, they would have received a lot of reports already, and council would have gone and planned some calming mechanisms and designed some traffic management strategies to minimize those disruptions and those incidents. So if there had not been historically complaints, then I don't know what I'm hearing from the submissions. And secondly, the allocation for basement parking for pickup and drop off, I think there are eight spots. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Obviously, there's going to be more than 8 parents picking up at any one time or dropping off at any one time. Is there provision for traffic management during overflow, during that 1 hour peak in the morning and 1 hour peak in the afternoon? Because ultimately, cars will be banked up and down the street. So what is your traffic management strategy for those parents dropping off and picking up kids beyond the number 8 cars?
Can I get Mr. Palmer to respond to that, please?
Yeah, of course. There is 10 spaces in the basement, I believe. Not all of them are drop-offs. Some of them are staff. Whilst there will be peaks and flows in terms of traffic movements, there is a turning bay provided within the basement, such that if a parent does enter the basement and the drop-off or pick-up bays are full, the turning bay will allow them to turn around safely and exit the site in a forward direction.
Thank you.
But we're potentially looking at 76 cars coming in within the hour.
It doesn't, there won't be 76 cars within the hour.
Or 50.
Perhaps you can just explain the ratio of cars per child from the work that you've presented in your traffic report, Mr. Palmer.
So the council's DCP requires 1 space per 20 parents, I believe, which leads us to a requirement of 4 spaces. So in council's estimates, they believe during peak periods, 4 drop-off pickup spaces are sufficient for the 80 children proposed, or 70. Sorry, I'll take that back. 76 children proposed.
Did that take into consideration how long it takes for a parent to pick up and drop off 1 or 2 kids?
Typically, the RMS guidelines state that the average drop-off and pick-up time for parents is about 7 minutes. So presumably that would have factored that dwell time, if you like, would have factored in to council's rate when determining their parent parking rate in the DCP.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Palmer, just following on from that, and does the proposal comply with the DCP in terms of numbers in the basement? Absolutely. Anna, is that all the questions you've got? I've got a question of Ms.
That's it from me for now.
Thank you. Asif, I'm just wondering, you've been involved in other similar childcare centres to this. It's run by your organisation, and we're told that it's very professionally run. You've also heard that there's a number of residents that are concerned that there'll be an intrusion into their amenity, etc. What mechanisms do you have to record any complaints from residents and indeed addressing any of those complaints?
They can call our head office and then we would note it down, and the projects team or the facilities team would be able to answer any of their concerns.
So do you have the ability to record such items on site? And if not, could you?
We have a system in place that just records everyone's complaints. So once they call the Montessori line, because it comes to our head office team and we're all in head office together. So then once it comes to the head office, they'll allocate it to the correct person, and then an email will be, they'll inform the person complaining or, you know, their concerns to email facilities at Montessori Academy, and then we will sort it out from there.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Sorry, Gary, addition to your question. These complaints register that you are going to maintain, are you including statistics from that register into an operational report every year?
Internal.
It's just internal. So we don't actually get many complaints for our childcare centres. We rarely get them. So it's just internal. We have a register.
Yeah. So what will inform the community, or what will inform council about the prevalence of complaints received because of any issue relating to the centre?
It's only concerns council if it's a big issue. So if it's a small issue, then I don't need to involve council. If it's something to do with like a tree, then I would involve council.
And do you consider traffic management and traffic incidents not a big issue?
We have our own basement with the required parking as per the DCP. So no, I don't.
You have never had it.
We've never had any issues with our basement as well.
Could I, Mr. Chairman, could I just offer a comment? Because I've looked at this for Montessori on other sites, and the level of complaints is actually quite small. They run them pretty tight ship.
Excuse me, Mr. Sartor, is it? I can't see.
Yes, sorry. Can you hear me? I've dealt with this particular issue on other sites for Montessori. And there's only one site where we had to start doing some more detailed survey work because there was a few other issues, and that wasn't anywhere near here. But most of the sites, there's very few complaints, and they're dealt with. Montessori have a very good occupancy rate and a very good relationship with the locals. So I think what Danielle is saying is any complaint that comes through is taken very seriously and is going to be addressed. And if there's more than sort of 2 complaints a year, whatever, I presume it's an issue that is brought to people's attention, but often they're very few and far between. Can I also make a comment on the previous issue of rat runs? I was the local member, not right here, but about half a kilometre away from here. And other parts of what do you call it? Not Bexley, the suburb next door. My God, I'm forgetting it. There were some rat runs. There were some people doing that, but they were typically late night. They were typically hours, nothing to do with the operation of this childcare centre. So that's probably why the traffic committee hasn't raised it at all, because you wouldn't see that sort of thing happening usually around the hours that these centres are at peak of egress or ingress, you know. I'm not saying there are none, but I'm saying traffic committee haven't raised it, but even if there were, they wouldn't be occurring at times that would affect the operations of this centre.
Thank you, Mr. Sartor. Does the panel have any other questions? If not, I'll thank all of the presenters for their presentations. The panel will make a determination this evening based on what it's heard, based on the report and all the submissions that it's received. There will be a result that's published on the web tomorrow. So thank you all for your attendance, and I will have to let the public, the general public, go now so that we can go on.
We can't ask
Mr.
any
Chair,
more
there are
questions.
questions raised. 2 hands are raised.
Why can't we ask questions? We're all here. We've all taken the time out to represent what we're here to represent. I think it's only fair that we can ask some questions.
You can
I mean,
ask Mr. Caldas.
Candilis.
Yeah, I do apologise.
That's all right.
Mr. Candilis. Yes, all right. I'll take one question from you.
Look, I understand. Look, no one's questioning here Montessori as a childcare operator. I'm certainly not. I've been in the construction industry for over 30 years, and I know of Montessori. And I believe, from what I've been told, they've got a great product for parents for their children. My concern here is not Montessori. My concern here is the development that is proposed for the area, and the safety risk it poses onto the general public, children who are going to be dropped off in and out of not just parents' cars, grandparents' cars, caretakers' cars, right? So, and let's not water it down saying there's only, 20 cars per hour and whatnot. There's 76 kids being dropped
you just
off.
ask the question, please.
My question is that if this proposal goes through and is approved, will we have access to how this facility is going to A, be built and be operating? Because we're not in the middle of the city here, and I'm hearing words of rat runs and all the rest of it, and peak hours of 8:30 to 9:30 and all the rest of it. It's not exact science here, particularly when people have been living in this area for 50 years. My question is, will we have access to the development's proposed construction methodology, traffic management, soil waste management plans, environmental concerns, etc., etc.? So I've got a list of all those requests. I've put them in writing, and I want that to be answered. Are we going to have access? If this proposal is approved by council, are we going to have access as concerned residents of how A, this place is going to be built, and B, how is it going to operate? That's my question. And it's probably a question for Daniela.
It's probably a question to me.
Okay,
because
I'll over to you, Gary.
The panel will make a determination this evening.
Mm-hmm.
It'll make a determination based on the conditions that are put before it. There are a number of conditions which I'm sure you've taken the time to read that spell out the way, if it's approved, the way it would be approved, the way it would have to operate, and the way it would be managed in the future. So the conditions, any conditions of consent that are contained would need to be satisfied.
There's 141 conditions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Sato. I don't propose to take any more questions, and I thank you all for your attendance, and we'll continue the meeting absent the public forum. Thank you all for your attendance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We're just waiting.